Let's start with Brexit. Before the vote, you went to Britain and you talked about maybe moving 4,000 jobs.
Right.
Since then, you've taken a kind of wait-and-see attitude to what happens.
So
this week,
it's a pleasure to be here.
Exactly. But this week, Theresa May has said Britain's not going to be in the single market. It's going to be in the customs union. Are you closer to making a decision about roughly what you would do?
Not really. First of all, we're thrilled she made a speech and is giving more clarity and trying to have a transition period. I mean, this whole transition period isn't because what we want. It's simply that we have the ability, the time to move people, build systems, acquire real estate. And it's not up to us. You know, the British people are going to decide, and they're going to negotiate with the EU. And when they finish that negotiation, we're going to know what it means for us. We simply have to accommodate the laws of the land, both in Britain and the EU, and that will determine how many jobs and how many people and how many things have to move.
Well, the same.
The 4,000 was an estimate at the time of some of it. You know, it could be more, it could be less, depending on what's negotiated.
All the same.
But we don't want to. It's not a threat. It's a fact that we will simply have to accommodate the new requirements.
All the same, when she started, she has made it very clear that she is prioritising immigration over the single market, and she doesn't want to give a particularly special deal for financial services.
Right.
You're a global bank based in London. You hire a lot of non-British people to work there. Surely this is, you know, generally Britain is heading in the wrong direction for JPMorgan and for other banks. Yeah.
So one of the things, it's not just the bank. So London is a fabulous financial center where we have huge economies of scale which accrue to the people of Europe. So remember, reduce our costs, but that gets passed on ultimately to the customer. If when they change the rules, we may simply have to move some of those people. And yes, it'll reduce jobs there. Now, the Brits will decide how they want to compete around the world, who they negotiate with. It's not up to me. It's up to you know, the Prime Minister and the Parliament at this point.
But at the moment, it seems more likely that big American banks, on the whole, might pull jobs back to New York rather than necessarily taking it to...
It looks like there will be more job movement than we had hoped for, yeah.
But coming back to New York as opposed to going to the
We don't know yet. It depends what the law is and the equivalency and the requirements. And you know, they can put in, the EU can put in very stringent rules which require some of those jobs to move into the EU, where they can be a little more flexible and allow equivalency between the US and Europe. And so it really depends what they come up with. Remember, it's 27 nations. And so this is negotiations that will take quite a while.
Another election coming up this year, France. Have you factored in the possibility of a Le Pen presidency and what that could do to the European Union? Is that one of the worries you have about this year?
Yeah, one of the things I always worry about Brexit wasn't just the effect on Britain, the GDP of the UK, et cetera. It was really about what it says for the long-term health of Europe. Now, and you know, if you were wishful thinking, which I kind of was a little bit, is that Brexit would cause the European Union to look at what went wrong and fix it. Because what went wrong is going wrong for everybody, not just going wrong for Britain. But in some ways, it looks like they're kind of doubling down. So if you...
Europe is not fixing its problems in response to Brexit.
And so I think you're going to have constant... You have the same political things about immigration, who controls the laws of the country, how much power goes to Brussels, how much inflexibility in capital and labor you're going to have. So I'm still hoping they do it. But if you have a Le Pen presidency and other nations, you know, the Eurozone may not survive. And that is a very complex thing.
That's a very pessimistic view of Europe.
Yeah, it's a long-term pessimistic view, yes.
Unless they change.
Unless they change. I think they're going to have to change and to be more competitive globally. And you know, they're doing okay right now, by the way. If you look at the economy today, it's going like 1% plus, which is okay. And I say this out of respect for the European people, but they're going to have to change. And you know, it may be forced by politics, it may be forced by new leadership. We'll have to see.
Are there any leaders inside Europe you think carry that mandate of change in a positive direction?
I think Angela Merkel is one of the most competent political leaders on the planet today. And as you know, she's up for election too in a year or so.
But if she has been the effective ruler of Europe, and the Europe you've described as one which is not reformed, your faith in her may not be entirely justified.
We'll see. I mean, it's not over. I mean, there's a long way to go in this game, in my opinion.